Hello everyone, it is the Average Joe, or the Above Average Joe here, and I am here to showcase you Brickadia Build Showcase Episode 2! And I hope you all are having a wonderful day, and I really hope you enjoy the builds that we're going to show today. We have a lot of great builds. We first are going to start with Brickadia Penitentiary, then we have Midnight Alley, and then we have the Mixed Warfare maps. And we have a lot of people who we interviewed. We have a lot of hours put in, a lot of builds to show, a lot of parts of the builds to show. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked the video, I would love it if you liked it. If you want to see more, please subscribe. I'd be really grateful for that. I'm really thankful for all of the people who had taken the time to showcase their builds and had a lot of wise things to say. And at the end of the day, in Brickadia, it is a medium, it is a platform where we can show builds that a lot of people put a lot of hard work into, and I think it's important to celebrate that. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video, and let's get on with it.
Hi, I'm the Sir Rolf, or Rolf as most people just call me, and this is Brickadia Penitentiary. Some people might recognize it, some people who've been around for a while will recognize it as Tazuni's prison from Blockland. This is what I would call the spiritual successor, or a remastered edition. I've been working on this, when was my first screenshot of it? I think June last year, I think I started working on it. The original version, well, I say original version 1.0 came out the day A5 launched. It was kind of a, what would you call it? Like almost a release. Like it was just meant to coincide with the release, so people kind of had something to play on the day that it came out. Right now, it's functioning as a team deathmatch build, I guess you could call it at the moment, just because behaviors aren't in the game yet. But once behaviors and all that, the plan is to make it a fully fleshed out jailbreak prison escape thing, similar to, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, the game The Escapist, basically in the vein of that. So pretty much right now we're just getting everything set up and ready to go for behaviors, so as soon as they're added, behaviors is going to completely change everything. Like, you're going to be able to open and close doors, you're going to be able to view security cameras, as you can, if you turn behind you and look above the yard, you can see one of the new cameras we've added. You'll be able to view those and hopefully rotate them around. You know, you'll be hopefully be able to get marked as, you know, wanted if you pick up a weapon or go through an area you're not meant to be. The yard doors, I'll show you here, this control panel, you know, we'll be able to open and close the door. Same with the basketball court over there, which the door can open and close. You can go through your air vents. You'll be able to access the vending machines. You'll be able to hopefully activate booby traps for guards, change the layout of the map, use the elevator, actually use the washroom and clean the dishes, use the treadmills. It's gonna be, there's gonna be so much interactivity with this map. So the current setup is you have effectively 4 teams. 2 of them are allied. You have your main teams of your prisoners and your guards, and then you have your special teams of your streaker and your warden. So the prisoners and the guards is kind of a bit self-explanatory. The objective of the prisoners is to get to the goal point at the entryway where we started, and the guards is to stop them. The streaker and the warden is a little bit different. The streakers are, I guess, an exaggerated version of the prisoners. All, you know, their player stats are just extreme versions of what the prisoners have, and their goal is to support the prisoners. They're meant to be, yeah, just a better prisoner. But the caveat to that is they have less lives, and there's only one of them. Similar to, well, same with the warden. The warden is a stronger version of the guards, and his job is to slow down the prisoners and be a bullet sponge. But again, he only has so many lives, and so the objective at the end of the day is to either eliminate the entire enemy team, if you can. It's happened before. It was quite cool to see. Or reach the goal point at the end of the tunnel and escape. This is one of the new things with this version of the prison, version 1.3. This is the freezer. This was not here before. I literally did this yesterday. But the craziest game I've seen, and it's up on YouTube on my second channel, was A5 launch day. We had a 50-player capped server all on the prison playing the deathmatch.
50?
We had 50 players, yeah. So this was originally called Tazuni's Prison Escape. You know, kind of self-explanatory with the name. It was a prison escape game mode server on Blockland. How long was it up for? It was up for a really long time. I first played it around 2014, 2015. And it was one of my favorite servers. It's the one I played on the most. And then, like, it was one of those servers that it was you could always rely on it being up. It was up 24/7, 365 days a year. And then one day it just went offline. Around the time where Blockland's play count really dipped. Everyone was a bit disappointed because the Tazuni and all the admins, they never released an official version for anyone to download. But Blockland has a feature, same with Brickadia, where you can just save, you know, any builds on any server at any time. Also, side note here, I should say, this is the main new build of the penitentiary, so definitely want to check this out. But one day the server came back online, and I heard about it from the forums, so I quickly went on and got a save of it. I was playing Brickadia with a friend of mine, and this was back in Alpha 4, and we were trying to figure out something to do. I had a whole bunch of Blockland maps that I'd converted with what was it? BLS to BRS, I think it's called. So it was actually his idea. I loaded up the map, and I'll show the original save I had. It was just complete dog shit. It was barely recognizable, and so from there we just decided to revive it. And the original plan was actually just revive it, you know, make it look like it originally was back in Blockland, and then leave it and move on. But as you can see, it's kind of become its own thing. Like, you know, there was an underground system in the original map, but nothing to this extent. The earliest screenshot I have is the 26th of May 2020. So over a year I've been working on this map. I played a lot of Blockland. Like, I was introduced to the game 2012, 2013 by my friend Matt, and then I bought it on my current Steam account in 2014. But I've played it for more than that. I've probably played it for another year. I've got like 1,500 hours, I think, 1,500 hours. So obviously I quite liked the game. But I met a guy on a certain YouTuber I won't mention, his Discord, who had a Blockland profile picture. And, you know, we started talking. It was like, oh, you know, Blockland, you know, it's not exactly a big game, so it's funny meeting someone from there on such a big YouTuber's Discord. We kind of got chatting for a while. We were talking about the game a bit, and then he messaged me saying, "Oh, I've got this game that you might be interested in being developed by some the old Blockland players." And I was like, "Oh yeah, tell me more." He's like, "Oh, it's currently invite only, like to the Discord. So you know, it's what's the word I'm looking for? Quite underground. So you know, it's basic like Fight Club. You know, only people that know about it can tell other people and invite them." And so I got invited to the Discord, and then just waited around for a key drop, and then I've been playing ever since. There was the time me and my friend Matt, we built this massive like ski slope, because I don't know if you remember the skis
Of course.
item, I think it was. Yeah. Yeah, we built a giant ski slope, so tall that you couldn't even see the ground anymore, and it was us and like 8 other people all racing down this ski slope trying to be the first person to do a successful backflip at the ramp at the bottom. The first biggest challenge was actually essentially rebuilding the prison almost from scratch, and getting it as accurate as possible. And then not just doing that, but at the same time trying to de-spam it as well, and reduce the brick count as much as possible. There's a thing here behind these boxes. This is another one of the new things. This is you can go down here if you want. But yeah, so that was definitely one of the biggest challenge. That drove my friend Matt insane. He rage quit a few times just because of how bad it was. Because we'd finish one area and we'd go, yes, finally, we're all done here, and then we'd find out there's 2,000 bricks we missed that we need to go and clear out. So that was probably the biggest hurdle. Another one's just been motivation in general, just trying to figure out, because I'm trying to build a story with all this, like I guess a lore. You've probably seen the messages pop up in chat. One of them says, not caught up on the lore, watch the videos here. So there's actually story, there is lore to what's going on, and it's been a challenge, I guess you could say, trying to incorporate that into the build. There used to be, where C Block and Medbay is now, used to be, or specifically C Block, used to be a work yard. So there used to be like tools and equipment and stuff like that. Used to be, I don't know what you'd call it, like I think they were meant to like be breaking rocks into like stone and stuff. And so it was also a way of kind of making a modernized version of that. The whole outdoor like mine shack area, I guess you could call it. Yeah, so the lore at the moment's a bit, there's a lot of loose strings at the moment, which is on purpose. Just to kind of keep people guessing, I guess you could say. But at the moment, it's all kind of themed around the maps, I guess you could say. So I'll give you an example. The lore really kicked off last version with the video's been out for a while, so if you haven't seen it, spoilers. With the death of Tazuni, that was the big kickoff for that episode, or video or something, I guess you would call it. But the lore is currently kind of shaping up as an explanation of how we got to this version of the prison, but also what's going to happen next, what the next big thing is going to be, and it also it's a way of explaining the changes. So it's not just I release a new version of the prison and wow, look, new features. It's a way of kind of explaining in a fun way why these changes have been made. These two statues here, the left one is Tazuni. That's actually the original statue from the prison escape, minus the red glowing eyes. That was a funny detail I decided to add in, but that's the original statue based on a blockhead figure. This statue behind me, I don't know if you kind of realize what it is. It's a statue of the warden, and this took about a month to build, pretty much non-stop, because of all the details that had to get added into it. And this is probably one of my proudest accomplishments with the prison, which is funny because of all the stuff with the prison that's been done, like the mine, just completely rebuilding it from what we started with. This is the thing I'm the most proud of, because one, it took so long, and two, this was, as far as I'm aware, the first as accurate as possible large-scale brickhead statue built in this game. As far as I'm aware, no one's done another statue like this. Like, there's been plenty of small ones. I've built a couple myself, and I've seen a couple on the in screenshots and as well. But in terms of large scale, like not just large scale, but nearly 1-to-1 scale as well. This is the first large statue, I guess you could say. The prison got founded by the warden, who is a character played by me. He then renovated the prison, and in the background shots of that, you can actually see Tazuni walking through the air vents. And then there's a mystery that plays out in that one where there's guards outside the shed, and there's police tape and other weird things, I guess you could say, like that. And it's like, oh, what's going on here? And the next version, you find out why that's happened. It turns out Tazuni was being hunted by a bounty hunter, and because that of the renovations and the big advertisements the prison, the warden put out about it, he was able to see on a TV advert Tazuni and track him down, and well, now we're here. And so yeah, next video, there's a lot of stuff that's gonna get revealed about why Tazuni was here, why he was doing what he was doing.
I understand this server is hosted with Omega, and
yeah.
I am not familiar with Omega, and I believe we did talk about Omega for a little bit when we first did meet. And I was just wondering if you could tell viewers that would be watching, what is Omega and how does it help you host your server?
I think it's made by Cake. It's made by people in the community. Let's see, there's the thing about the lore story. And it allows us to put in basically add-ons like we would have had back in Blockland, or it allow us to add features that currently aren't in the game, such as messages in chat. I use it for stuff like team chat, so prisoners and guards can actually speak to each other using /T. Then you've got stuff like the messages in chat. I've got it. I don't run it on this server. I run it on another server, but I've got stuff like autosave. I've also got I've got a handful of plugins actually. Yeah, the nighttime version is always really fun to look at. Where are we going? There.
Yeah, there we go. Wow.
I always like it a lot nicer at night.
What is that? This figure up there? Is that part of the lore?
The big thing. No, that's more of a just a fun thing me and my friends put in. So if you look to your left, you'll see a statue.
Yeah.
Up on the mountain. That's called an angel. It's one of the monsters, I guess you could say, that the characters in the hit anime Neon Genesis Evangelion have to fight. And so my friend had the idea, because my friend Link built that, and he had the idea of adding a giant, another one of the monsters they have to fight, a giant one of them up in the sky. But a lot of the stuff outside the prison was done to try and encapsulate the spirit in a way of what of a lot of the spirit and a lot of the behaviors and attitudes, I guess you could say, of the original map from Blockland, because you had a lot of stuff like that. People who donated the server could build, like leave the minigame and build. And so there was a lot of really cool stuff like the clock tower. That was an iconic thing that someone built, so I moved that in. Yeah, I guess what keeps me coming back to Brickadia is I've always loved sandbox games, and I love the sort of games where you can just kind of sink a couple of hours in and just kind of, I don't know, I guess I don't know, it sounds weird, but I guess almost a form of escapism. You just kind of it's a game that I love. It's the same with Same with Blockland, same with Minecraft. They're games that I just love to play just because I can sit down, relax, ignore what's going on around me in the world, and just build and just be creative. Because it's like, I'm not a very artistic person. I have very little artistic skill, but games like this, I don't need artistic skill. You don't need a lot of talent. You just do. That's what I love about this sort of game. And then there's also the people that you meet as well. Like you, for instance, you know, you're a pretty cool dude, and I get to sit down and have a chat with you. There's people, you know, in the community like Raina or Do You Like to Eat Bee that I've met through specifically the penitentiary that I've got to have. You know, I've got to play the game with. I've gotten the ability to have a chat with them. You know, Raina was kind of the MVP of the last video with all the deathmatch stuff in it. And then there's just that sort of uncensored freedom that you get from, you know, you had that in Blockland, although it was a different environment, but you have that here where you can just kind of go and do, and just you're chatting with people who are very like-minded to you, who have a lot of, I guess, the same interest to you, because, you know, you're all playing this game for a reason. So it's, for what Brickadia is, like, to answer what has Brickadia given me, Brickadia has given me an outlet to be creative and have fun in a way that in the traditional sense I would never be able to, because, you know, like I said, I'm not an artistic person, but here I can be in a very, very different way. And what draws me to it, and like what keeps me coming back, is definitely that sense of creative freedom, but also the people. The people you meet, the people you play with, the people you get to talk to, because everyone I've met on this game has been lovely. They've all been fantastic to talk to, and it's the best community I've ever been a part of, and I feel so lucky to be a part of it, and almost known in a way that, like, you know, I get to do stuff like this. I get to, you know, sit down and be able to just talk about, you know, the projects I'm working on, the things I love to do, and the reasons I'm passionate for it. Like, there is not a chance in hell I'd be able to do that with a game like Minecraft. Such a monumental game, you know. But here, it's completely different attitude. That's the thing that keeps drawing me in, that community and that creative freedom.
With this server, it was a lot of, like, people would join, put their stuff down, leave, because it started really slow, and then it kind of sped up a bit, and it got into kind of its, like, faster and faster with people building, because it was hard to get people to build at first. It was not easy. I think I woke up in the morning one day, and I was talking to someone. I was like, I need something to do. I'm bored. And this game really makes you scratch, like, a kind of, like, creative itch that you have. Like, if one day you wake up, you go, oh, I want to build, like, a community project, and you go in and you start building, like, a whole 7-Eleven. You start with that, then you move over to, say, like, maybe making a cafe. You go, oh, this looks nice, maybe I could build it into, like, a community kind of thing. Like, originally this was just going to be, like, kind of my personal project. Like, this little part of the city was probably just going to stay small. It was probably just going to stay its own little collective. But I kind of was talking to someone, and when you're going through a rough patch, like, I've been going through a rough patch since I started this server, and I kind of needed something to do, something to go to, and this game was, like, a really good kind of, like, escapism kind of from anything that you have going on. I'm Aspen. I made this server, Midnight Alley. It was supposed to originally just kind of be this personal project, but it kind of turned into something more of, like, a kind of like a community thing. It's just started down here as a 7-Eleven and a cafe. So one person built their building. like down here, someone like it started off as just 7-Eleven cafe. This person Pavizzi came by. They built their little noodle shop, and it just kind of expanded from there. I'd get on every day with 2 other people, build, and it kind of turned into a thing where I thought that I would maybe enjoy having people around to have people around to build stuff, show their creative side to kind of do what they wanted to do. And it kind of opened up for people to do as they please and kind of express themselves creatively, because I think everyone kind of needs a chance to be themselves and show what they can do. Like this whole city is kind of a proof of that, of like everyone kind of has a side to them where they just want to get a creative little itch out. So I thought if I'm doing it, might as well make this kind of an open community kind of thing where everyone can come by and just kind of express how they need to. This server kind of started as this. I remember someone, their name was like K or something. They hosted this cyberpunk build when cyberpunk became a thing, and I thought it was like, I was like, wow, that was a really cool build, because it was kind of the same feel, the same vibe of like that cyberpunk thing. So I kind of wanted to do that, because I was really disappointed because that server never got hosted again. So I hosted this as kind of a way to get that itch out. So I built the 7-Eleven, the cafe. I was like, I have a theme going here, might as well run with it. And then it started going up from there. People joined. And as we went up, it kind of evolved into this, like, I would host kind of as a way to get people interested, you know? Like, this area used to not exist. Like, these builds were kind of all just a collective of people kind of slowly being like, we want more, there's more to this is an interesting build. Most of this was built in like a week's time, 2 weeks. It was really impressive how people can just quickly kind of express their builds, build what they want, and kind of make a scene out of something where not everyone has the same idea, but that general idea is just kind of what pushes people to make this huge city that has a unique feel, because it's not all just one person doing it. It's a ton of people expressing their own idea of what it should be, and it just somehow works. Nobody's building style is quite the same, but somehow people manage to make everything work. And to me, it's really impressive seeing a community of people come together and build something so like it's almost unreal, because if you showed this game to somebody, you'd go like, wow, this is made by a community of people. That looks like it would have taken a long time. And it's like, no, most of this was built in like a month, maybe less. And it's really impressive to see a community of people just kind of like come together, make this like landscape of different buildings that all fit a general theme. And I don't know, for me, from the perspective of someone who's like always wanted to host this like server of just people enjoying themselves, kind of building stuff. Like my goal with a server was never just like, it's never like a you kind of thing. You kind of host a server, and it's up to you to host it and keep it up and keep it running, make it look nice. But when the people enjoy a server so much to the point where they're willing to just join and just build and expand on it willingly, it's like something's really like enthralling. This game has offered quite a bit to me. Like I said, I kind of was going through a harder time when I started hosting this, and I kind of used it as a creative escapism.
I'm Koi, also known as Humongous Koi in the server, and this is the very first build I made in the server. Initially when I first started building, I actually made like a very small sushi stand here, but then it got deleted when Aspen's server died. So I remade the sushi bar, added a conveyor belt, over the head, aquarium, and gold pillars and stuff like that. I wanted to make it look way better the second time, I'm actually more proud of the kitchen. It really shows off the, cyberpunky feeling, the mechanical nature of like food production in this restaurant, and among other things. See a lot of wires, see a lot of processed foods. There's like you see what's going on here just by looking at it, I like to tell a story with my builds. You see, like, for instance, this salmon comes out of this hose, right? From the ceiling, just comes out as goop. Some guy would chop it up, shape it into fish, and then put it on top of the rice, and then that's where the sushi comes from. A little bit disgusting, you know, but now that's how it is. Over here, I built a little factory, or at least a small portion of the factory of my company called Dumpico. This is where they make dumpling trucks. You know, it's actually, I thought it was pretty clever, just like separating the parts of the little carts that I made, make it look like it was formed in a factory and then shipped off to who knows where. I believe this part will be moved, so it isn't right next to the sushi stand. It would probably be part of like the industrial area. Sometimes I just walk around just to find inspiration for my next project. I love like small builds, you know. I love having to like to fit stuff into like a little small envelope, you know. We created these home pods here, which are basically 8x16 base plates, which you could put pretty much any living space onto. It's just like my idea of like an RV park, but cyberpunkish, you know. So far, there's only 2 homes, the ones that I've built, but I'm hoping that once new players start coming in, the next update, I hope they would find a place of their own, build little houses and things like that. So I added some of these little little carts around the city, serving various food items. This one here serves dumplings. This is where they got the name Dumpies from, just to shorten the name. I want these food carts to be placed around the city as little Easter eggs, you know. There's a lot of different varieties, I believe. I want people to collect them all. Yeah, I like to think of this as like a little clubhouse, you know, a place where people would hang out in this little story that I set up here. You know, you got computers, you know, food, someone building a little robot here, 3D printers, writing on a whiteboard right here. And there's also like a bonus story where you crawl through this vent. Back here, you would find a 3D printing operation printing guns, which, you know, which I believe would be good for the lore that, you know, the other players have set up. Also here you have a one-way window. You can see the entire room, but you can't really see it from the outside. So the big thing that I wanted to do for the city is, you know, I had thought, you know, there wasn't really any like poverty or anything showing in this place. It's all a bunch of fancy skyscrapers, neon signs, cool looking air inside spaces. So I thought I would come up with something a little less rich, if you know what I mean. But I like to call this area Blackwater Basin. It's basically a pit inside of a canal that would accommodate for the less wealthy people in this city. As such, this place looks kind of disorganized. You know, buildings are just piled on top of each other. I've been working on this for about 3 weeks since this video started. Since I came to this server, you know, I'm getting endless amounts of positive feedback from everyone. They like to, you know, see all this, see all the colors, see all the creativity that's happened, and really, you know, really encourages me to keep on building. And it's thanks to the guys who come here, the other architects, builders, Aspen, you know, really really encouraged me.
I am a Poxel, and I am an architect in Midnight Alley server. This here is one of my contributions, one of my early contributions. At the beginning, I wasn't really good at building in Brickadia. So in this server, I wanted to contribute something to the server. So I decided to make something pretty functional. These are just signs that people would put on their builds, like a working in progress sign or like a no gun sign. I still consider this build, even though it looks complete, I still consider it work in progress because there's still some things I want to improve. So this here is a police station, but it's entirely autonomous. There's no humans working in it. As you can see, my avatar is a robot. I made this like kind of like portrait kind of thing of my avatar. Very simplified. I was planning on making like a propaganda poster about him, saying like they protect. So this right here is where like the pods are for the robots, and behind you is the just the armory part. Each pod contains like a pistol, which is the personal sidearm of the robots. And so basically these pods would just hold the robots and like kind of just keep them like charged and like repaired until their next mission, like this. It was just it was just kind of like natural. Like it's just like I come back to the server, I've just keep seeing the same like people, so it's kind of like having a neighbor, you know. They're like, you see them around and stuff, and you kind of just socialize with them.
So I'm Fox. I'm one of the architects for Midnight City. I have about like 20,000 blocks or so, which isn't that much, but I still play, you know, a little bit. Well, I was in what was basically the server list, like the public server list, and I saw this server with like a couple of people. So I joined, and it was basically right at the start when it had just first begun, and it was only a couple of builds. And this restaurant here was my first contribution to the server, and afterwards I was made builder, and sort of after that, after I built this, I started helping around with some of the facades. Not too much, but they are visible sort of around the map. Mainly, it has been sort of finding the right reference material or the right ideas to sort of implement, since it is its own unique style of type of build where it's really a mix of a lot of things kind of coming together, where you have this sort of neo-futuristic with its more strange aspects. So we have to pull from a lot of resources, and it's kind of like a struggle to find that kind of stuff readily available. So it's sort of more of a learning process, I guess you could call it. Yeah, at first, Axolotl made the like the shell of the building and told people that they could make apartments, and at that point I think everybody could, but then it got very saturated, so it was reserved for people who had like the builder rank and the architect rank, and it stayed like that for a while, but now it expanded. Like the whole building was over in the main area over there, and then it changed and it was moved over here. To me, I guess media is a sort of very fun way to express a lot of things that I normally can't in, you know, other building games, whether it be Minecraft or I guess Roblox, if I ever play that. But yeah, honestly, in the very short time that I've played, I've met a handful of people that are really fun, and I like them a lot. And the server itself is such an amazing sort of experience for me to participate in whenever I can. So yeah, in total, Brickadia has been a pretty positive part in the short time span that it is sort of occupied. It's been very, very nice, very positive, and just overall pretty great.
All right. Well, I'm Kyle. I really like I joined blah blah blah. I joined Brickadia because I really liked Blockland back in the day, and this felt like sort of a successor game to it. And I really liked the concept of the server, so that's why I started playing on it. I mean, I haven't really been the most active builder, but I joined on pretty early. Whenever I talk about Brickadia, like what can be done on Brickadia, I show people the server. I made Bob's Burgers on the server. And as you can see, I made all the cybernetic parts look like burgers. There's a few other builds I've made, like a few pixel art and one of the skyscrapers. Okay, I do got a little story though. So you see like this little alley area? In the early days of the server, this alley brought me much pain. Because you see, this isn't really like a small space to build, right? Well, other people on the server, they apparently didn't understand the concept of plots, and they apparently saw this as a land of opportunity. Because when I was making this, I left this area open, and it seemed like every other day somebody would be planting a build here. I've always been like kind of a hermit. I mean, I'm not the most sociable person, but the people here have been nice enough, and they're when we do have calls, when I do get into the group calls, it's always really fun to talk with them. I made one of the skyscrapers. I did contribute to the skyline. This skyscraper right here, this was my build. It's eternally unfinished, by the way, no interior. And I was going to put a radio tower up here, but I didn't. Also, I do have some pixel art. About a week ago, I decided to work on some pixel art that would have been 100 blocks by 100 blocks. I didn't think it would be that much. It turns out 100 by 100 is like 10,000 blocks. And I didn't realize that image to BRS was a thing. So I was making it by hand. Yeah, got some Minecraft paintings, got some cool Art Deco modern furniture looking on. And I don't have a bedroom. I just sleep on the couch. It's been kind of nostalgic, and also at the same time, it's really convenient to build with. Like a lot of the features, like God, man, I wish this was like in other games I'd play, like Minecraft. But there's a lot of features that are absurdly convenient to have, like the resize tool and the wand tool that essentially lets you copy and paste. There's just so much to let you do, and I've been loving it so far.
Hi, I'm Seekamillion. I am a admin for the Midnight Alley server, as well as mainly a detail builder. I don't usually work to scale, but I help with props, small-scale builds, sometimes helping out with other people's products, other people's constructs. My building style tends to be much less about scale. I focus on detail and shape, color paletting, light play. I want to make things look pretty first and imposing later. My contributions have been the motel near the 7-Eleven, the Vixen Lounge, which has its own story behind it, and various props that you might see around the server. I was here basically since day one. There was an open space on top of the 7-Eleven. I'm like, screw it, let's make something. So I started to work on this little garden area. I started with the benches. Then I copied over the railing style, made a mural to put on the ground, and led off into a wall because I wanted to make a building there. The tree I cannot take credit for. That's Pivisi, and they are wonderful to work with in every way. Motel is in here. This was like the second thing I started working on. I hadn't really figured out my style yet. Microbics were still relatively new, so I hadn't worked with them much. I'm just like, well, what's a good cyberpunk thing? How do I express cyberpunk concepts and comforts? And I thought, well, this idea of really close population density and slightly run down poor economic conditions, but plastered over with plastic and metal. So how do I do that? And I thought, well, Eastern capsule hotels really have that feeling of proximity. So I immediately got to work on that. When asked, I like to contribute to other people's work. I've done bits here and there. You can definitely see generally how things work is when I contribute, other people figure out the big scale stuff. I'm terrible at figuring out how things are going to look in the end. The place I got most of my buildings, the place I developed my style wasn't actually in Blockland. It was, I used to work a lot in LCAD's kind of a niche term, basically Lego computer-aided design. You get a full brick palette, and they can connect all the ways Legos can connect, and you can do some, well, whatever you want, basically. And I worked most on developing sort of vaguely anime-style mech suits. You know, big robots. And sort of when you're making something humanoid but mechanical, the expression of that mechanical part, all the intricacies of the design, is what takes it from, at least in my mind, from good to great. So that's mostly where I first developed those skills. I'd say, in terms of inspiration, this is going to sound a bit strange, but where I first sort of, that concept of deep intricacies really clicked for me was actually Half-Life 2. If you look at the combined wall textures in that game, they can't really express it because the engine's all brushes and cubes, but when you see the exposed paneling, there's this deep expression of sort of just this wall, this incomprehensible mass of technology that in itself isn't a flat surface, but it's so dense and intricate, it forms a wall. And that it goes so deep and it goes on for miles and miles. Brickadia as a game, that's difficult because it's very much under development. For a while, it was very much leaning into open-ended Lego design, but and I will complain a lot about microbricks, but that's mostly because my worry when they got added was, when you're working with bricks, that's basically your smallest unit of detail is a 1x1 by 1F, just a tiny flat. When you add microbricks, I know people get really mad when you call them voxels, but they basically are. They're tiny cubes, and microbricks stylistically have become a way to, instead of just approximating a shape and stylizing it in a way that fits into brick building, they've become a way to approximate volumes. Instead of making a car, but tweaking that design to fit into bricks, now what you do is you take the volume, the shape of the car, and you try to replicate that as closely as possible to real life using microbricks. And I think that not only has created a fast shift in how building has to be thought of in Brickadia, but it shows just how easily the addition of just any singular aspect can change how you have to build. And I say have to, but I do mean that. I do have a little bit to say about the lounge. The lounge is an interesting story behind it. You'll notice it is very much unfinished. This is basically, when I talk about microbricks changing the possible level of detail, this is the testing ground for that, for me, is what's the most dense you can possibly get with them. And the absolute farthest I've managed to push them, and pretty much all of my time in Brickadia, is this quarter here. Just trying to fit everything in. You can't just place things randomly. You need to make sure everything logically connects to something else, everything forms a shape. But what's the densest you can make it? What's the most complex you can fit things into? And then once you're doing that, how do you then express something? How do you express an idea, a shape, a function? The lounge itself has a big story behind. Well, I say big. It has a story behind it. Basically, when I first got here, and this may show up in the B-roll, none of this was here. The idea of the Vixen Lounge was not mine. Instead, what happened was someone, let me check, actually. Lilith Kiwi. Credits out, shout out to Lilith Kiwi. Anyways, they showed up in Midnight Alley back when this sub-alley was very, very new. The underground section had just been built. There wasn't much down here, and they constructed basically a totally unfurnished box, a basic shape of a bar with no ceiling, and they made the sign outside. And I liked the sign so much that what happened was they vanished. They made the sign, they made the bar, and it was just 10 blocks total inside the building, and they vanished completely. It was months later, and I loved the sign so much, I didn't want the building to go to waste. I found the sign itself to just be inspirational for a build. So I talked to Aspen, and I sort of commandeered the space, and I said, looking at this sign, how do I make a building for the sign? And that's pretty much what the Vixen Lounge ended up becoming. Since you asked me about Half-Life 2, probably the best way to see that, the wall behind the stage is actually directly referenced. I added in some glowy bits and some little bits of sprue here and there. But the general shape is directly referenced from a piece of concept art for the Cut Half-Life 2 chapter of the Air Exchange, where you have sort of like this big wind tunnel covered in tiny robotic arms, and that sort of panel shape and the bits coming off of them are all referenced from that concept art. I know I talk a lot about really pretentious art terms like the expression of ideas and, levels of detail. I know it sounds silly, but it does. I mean it genuinely. I do think, as a game, it represents a very, very good outlet for creative expression.
So my name is X, and I'm one of the 4 people working on OBC right now. My role has been mostly programming. I work on the plugins for the servers and kind of keeping their functionality in check. My role for Mixed Warfare was to create a save rotator plugin and a team chat plugin, kind of those type functionalities. And I think our drive with Mixed Warfare was we wanted to be able to have a deathmatch server with many maps, but have it in a way where we don't have to be there for the maps to switch. We needed some kind of medium for players to be able to vote and switch out maps on their own. So we turned to Omega, which Cake had made for the Brickadia community, and it allows you to write your own plugins in JavaScript, which is really nice. So I wrote a save rotator plugin in JavaScript, and that was kind of my contribution toward Mixed Warfare at first.
I'm Cody, or Cody022. What I do for OBC is I was the one that originally started OBC. I've been the one that maintains the servers and all the data included with the servers. And I also am probably the main admin or moderator of OBC. Watches over everything, takes care of everything.
I am Tombstone Technician, aka Tomb Tech. I am the builder. Almost all the props made in at least this map are made by me. I joined during when sewer was being built, and I said, "Hey, can I join?" And suddenly I'm an admin.
Hello, my name is Chewy, and I'm also a builder. I was here since the beginning. Me and Cody wanted to start. Originally, it was supposed to be a zombie survival server that I was gonna run, but eventually that got put on the back burner. And then Cody had this brilliant idea to start Mixed Warfare, so I kind of went along with it, and I'm happy to see how it's turned out so far.
What we're doing here today in this server is looking at the Mixed Warfare maps. Mixed Warfare is a kind of competitive Brickadia team deathmatch. This was the original map that was started. I just wanted to start throwing something together because I wanted to make a deathmatch map, basically.
Mixed Warfare kind of spawned as an idea that we could have a deathmatch server with rotating maps. And thanks to the Omega tool, which Cake so gracefully made for us, we were able to write some plugins to help manage the server for us. So we have a server rotator plugin that kind of allows players to vote on different maps to be shifted in and out, which is pretty cool. I don't think any servers were utilizing functionality like that before, so it's kind of nice. It adds extra variation to the deathmatch.
This is gonna be a very weird mishmash. I did not put much theme to it. I just thought, oh, this area looks cool. I want to throw that in. That area looks cool. So, okay, actually, we should probably start with the main area that everyone fights in normally. So you spawn in CT, which is, I guess, supposed to be some kind of chemical test chamber thing, and it's called Utility Lab. It's not going to really be cohesive in the first place. And come down this hallway. We don't have a name for a lot of these areas, but I think we call this Big Room. And this is kind of like the primary interaction between both of the teams. This is like what I consider the storage area. We have the garage door here and a room back there, which it's actually laid out so you can't peek back there if you want. And we had a lot of work put into here to try to get it to not be horrible. Every version I've done made pretty major changes to this room to keep it balanced and fair, because it's very difficult when the terrorists have we call it heaven, Counter-Strike lingo. I originally started making this map in Alpha 4 because we knew there was going to be lights in Alpha 5. So my first idea for the whole map was, this was like a pool of water that shined light onto the ceiling. That's how the map started.
I think the week before Alpha 5 was kind of when Mixed Warfare really began development, and we started a server, just three of us, me, Cody, and Chewy, and they started working on their own separate 2 maps, and we worked on these maps constantly. I was working on the plugins, they were working on the maps for not like I think full week straight. It was just every single day was just constantly working on these maps. So we were just so enthused by the idea of Alpha 5 coming out and all the different stuff we could do with it. So I think on this map there are probably at least 3 good spots where you can see some cool lighting happening. One of the main things we wanted to emphasize with this map and the subway map was we really want lights to be like a huge thing. And the subway sounds are a pretty huge thing with the little holograms you can walk by and stuff.
How it first started was actually before Mixed Warfare. And Chewy was trying to port forward to host their own server, and I found them on Flavors. They're making great builds on Flavors' Christmas free build in December of 2020. Gave Chewy a server to mess around with for probably 2 weeks, and Chewy was like, I want to make a big game mode where there's this, it's like a free build in deathmatch in one. The theme was like a rundown city, and like there were multiple teams of survivors who built themed houses and also shot each other, and there were also zombies. And then after that, we're like, we should do something a little bit less, like more in the confines of what we could do in the game. So then we tried making a deathmatch. That's how Mixed Warfare started. It more started with I started working on this map, and Chewy right next to it started working on Subway.
Cody, you wanna mention how I just kind of like randomly showed up?
Yeah,
And then-
you
and then I was
randomly
like, I'll make a save
DM me like,
rotator.
yeah, you randomly DM me like, hey, can you just let me in your password server? And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. And we let you in there, and it's just kind of how it started. You started writing plugins.
The other project we tried to run at the same time as Mixed Warfare when Alpha 5 came out was called Just a Brick. And it was my little personal like brainchild project. Didn't go over super well, but it was kind of an interesting concept. So the idea was that everyone that would join had access to 1 brick. And if they placed any more than 1 brick, then the plugin would just kind of remove all of their existing bricks. So I wanted to see if it was going to be utter chaos and people were just going to, put random bricks everywhere, or if people would kind of band together and actually create some sort of interesting creation. But it never really took off. I think most we got was 35-ish bricks, something around there. So it was a neat concept, but I don't think it didn't really get the attention I desired. But I think we might maybe revive it at some point. This is it. This is the extent of what we were able to create. If you take out your hammer, you should be able to see that every one of these bricks is made by a unique person.
Oh.
When you middle click.
Oh. Oh, okay, there we go. I didn't even know you can do that. Wow, you taught me something today. This is great.
All right, so have we showed off this room here in specific? It's not very interesting, but this is terrorist spawn, which is it leads straight into the main room along with CT just straight on. And like I was talking about with it being hard to balance that main room is because of this room here, which is just really powerful, which we still need to work out more, but it's decent right now, I think. It's really, if you're a smart counter-terrorist, you'll do well on this CT side. This leads to the other half of the map, which we don't need to touch on very, prolonged, I guess. Not very good English there. My idea for this place was kind of like, you ever see images of blast mining operations where they're just blowing out huge chunks underground? This was kind of a what's the word? Inspiration for that. CT has a little more. Both of them have pretty strong cover. CT has more because Terrace has a lot larger of an area. This map kind of loosely resembles a three-lane map. We come into here, some sort of computer room thing. We took advantage of lights. A lot of this map was meant to take advantage of lights. So you got that beautiful green coming off of this center display. Computers shining a whole bunch of lights everywhere. And it's just a little hallway to access better from Terra's side, along with this is kind of the third lane coming back this way for the terrace. That's one of the balancing points of this map, is the terrace have a great view over this big room, but their third lane into here is significantly worse than the counter terrace way in. And we have a few more spots where counter terrace can maneuver around to escape the terrace choke points, including this little zigzag hallway. And this is the primary hallway back to the counter terrace spawn. I would also, one last thing to point out, this one specific hallway was one of my biggest drives to make this map, was purely for the shadow lights right here shining on the wall. Because I thought it would be really cool to kind of have like a diagonal shining upward from across a diagonal hallway. I didn't want this to be based off Counter-Strike, but I took a lot of inspiration from Counter-Strike maps. A lot of my big intents were frame rate, times before conflict, and just keeping everything in the map balanced. Not having too strong choke points or like high positions. And so those were, I thought those were great pieces to make a good map. So I tried to really keep those in as much as I could on each map.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Like, a lot of inspiration came from like CS:GO and games like TF2, and a lot of the times I just kind of sketch up like a random idea, and then I kind of go through Cody because it's got the big brains, and it can help me sort out like choke points and conflict points and things like that.
Yeah, this map's a fairly interesting one for sure. It's also been our most difficult one.
Right quick. There's an Easter egg back here. He says Chunky Hammer. That's from the original version 1 of the map. We left it in because it was constantly joked about when it was first being made.
Oh, I think it was before micro blocks came out.
Yeah.
I believe that's why it's so freaking huge.
This is CT spawn. This map is based just around like a square design. So terrace spawn is on the opposite side, same level as counter terrace, and you both kind of wrap around the sides of a courtyard in the middle. And it is also kind of following a 3-lane design. It's kind of like a standard thing, the easiest to balance and make work. So you get the two sides of exit. You got the left or right, but on the right, on both sides, you also have a staircase leading to a second level. They both travel about through the shipping containers. On each side has quicker access to one of them and slower access to the other one. So whichever side you pick, you're at a disadvantage or advantage equally on each team. If you come from terrace side, you got a long walk where counter terrorists have this room already access available to them. This one in particular was Tombstone and I. The original version was completely chewy. And
yeah,
we based a lot off the original version. It's very similar in terms of the general structure, along with, you know, a little bit of layout changes and prop updating for the new alpha.
So the thing is that when we first wanted to release or like open Mixed Warfare to the public, we wanted to have like a three maps to start out with. So we already had the 2 maps, Subway and Lab, I think that's what it's called, ready, but we wanted to have 3 to start off with, just because 3 is like a nice number to start with, and it gives us a lot more options. So this map, when I first made it, I kind of just threw things together just to like get a 3rd map out there. That's when Cody and Tombstone kind of came in and fixed things up to make it work.
I model, so building is like second nature.
When I was younger, I played a lot of Roblox, and I would always build on there. So that's kind of where my experience with building has started and has grown from.
I'd actually probably consider myself the weakest builder in this group still. I was around on Blockland since 2009 and Roblox since 2006, but I've never been too fond of the building in either games. I've never partaken in it very much, and Brickadia was probably the first major step for me into starting to build. And I've probably learned a lot from these maps alone.
Obviously, I haven't contributed too much building-wise to Mixed Warfare, but very similar to Chewy, I've been on Roblox since 2010, so most of my building experience that I've been able to translate into Brickadia has come from Roblox. Lots of Roblox growing up.
I did, of course, build in Blockland, and for me, the biggest challenge was to break those, like, what is it? Those subconscious tendencies to, like, optimize everything, save as much bricks as possible. This game makes that so much less important, and it was so hard for me to break that need to do.
So this map is Subway. This is one of the first 3 maps that Mixed Warfare had. I got, like I said earlier, there was a lot of inspiration from like CS:GO maps and things like that. But at the time, I just really felt the need to make a underground map, mostly because I didn't want to be bothered with outside terrain and aesthetic like buildings and things like that are in the distance. So I wanted to keep it fairly simple, and subways are a staple to shooter games. I feel like there's always got to be that subway map, that underground map that has train cars passing through and things like that, and all these neon lights. And that's another part of the reason why I wanted it, because with the new patch coming out with all these dynamic lighting, I wanted to capitalize on that and create a map that was vibrant and really bright to look at.
This map in specific was not including like having a full revision like Sky Construct was the most work for one consecutive like effort on a map.
There used to be scaffolding up on here that you could jump from this CT nest that you spawn from. You used to be able to like walk on the scaffolding and kind of shoot down through the window. And actually, this second floor on the T side wasn't even here in like the first iteration of the map.
This one went through a lot of changes as well. It kind of initially had this rough geometry here, how you have kind of this entrance door right here, and this other door to go out into the main area, and these stairs here. But for a while, there was some scaffolding here that you could stand on. And people abused that in ways to go and stand on top of this, but we've since fixed that, of course.
Like, the first day, it was just so hectic. Like, the server would be maxed out, like, instantly. And we were surprised that even after, like, crashing, like, 30 times, the server would instantly fill up, like, the second it got back on.
And I think we still get a fair few number of players that come on and enjoy the game, and this is kind of just known by the community as one of the better, more consistent deathmatch servers that go up, because there aren't really any competitors, I guess you could say, if you want to call it a competition. But I think Mixed Warfare has been, the most consistent deathmatch server available.
It's definitely the only asymmetrical one.
Part of the reason I think people come back is the program that you made that allows the maps to change, because I do notice that there are other deathmatch servers, but the difference between ours and theirs is that their servers usually have just one map, and sometimes you go there and it's just the same map all the time. But I think that the appeal of Mixed Warfare is the map changing feature.
Something I've always wanted for a long time was kill tracking, stat tracking. I'm sure that'll easily be possible with behaviors. With behaviors, we're going to be doing a lot of things, I hope. At least I will. And one thing I've always wanted for Mixed Warfare was exactly that. I want you to keep track of kills you got. I'd love to keep track of as much information about what you've done to the server as you can, which not much of that is really possible right now. So that's definitely going to be a behaviors thing.
Yeah, tying in on what Cody said, I am by far, without a doubt, the most excited for behaviors. Considering my role is pretty much solely to program and write plugins, behaviors is kind of going to completely replace that, and I will just be working on, behavior related stuff, or at least what behaviors can do to that extent. So I think when behaviors are a thing, you can expect to see some stuff from us like RPGs and crazy maybe like vehicle like demolition games and stuff like that. I think we will have a lot of interesting stuff happening when behaviors are finally out.
And we've had a lot. I've definitely had a lot of ideas too, which I hope some of these people here also share ideas or the excitement about trying that out too.
Closed and open doors using them as cover and things like that. I just feel like it'll add a lot.
I think right now most of us envision it as, you know, a game that enables building and creativity and playing with guns and stuff. But I think as the developers continue to add more features like behaviors and wires and vehicles and everything else they have planned, they're kind of just giving us all the tools that we need to create our own games, really, or like our own embedded games that we can create on the fly and, you know, show other people, and you can skip the whole process and worry of dealing with a game engine, and it kind of just introduces people into the realm of game design without having to, you know, struggle with real programming or modeling or hiring artists or, you know, marketing your game. It's just a really good way to delve into that world.
So this is DM Sewer. This is a rather interesting map in our collection of 4 because this is the only map that we did not make in Alpha 4. This one was started fresh in Alpha 5 using more people than the other maps. So it had a lot more like effort and time put into it than the other ones. And it turned into a very cool, unique, just much larger too map. And there's a lot to show off here.
This is the first map I worked on. The junk you see around here is like the cargo boxes, the ammo boxes. It's like a gas valve I made somewhere. I made these, I think.
X did participate on this map, by the way.
Let's start with Long over here.
This is my primary contribution to this map over here. I worked on this little section right here. This was my, I don't know, I needed something to put in. I think Chewy was like, we need something for like these little
nooks right here.
Little nooks,
Something.
yeah.
I made the wet floor sign.
Oh yeah.
Here's a riot shield that Cody made because I pointed out that this side has this for cover. This box full of guns is my idea. Comfortable made the wooden crates. I think Chewy made these things.
No, I don't think I did. I need to go check the door.
There's a nightclub over here.
Which was my idea.
One of the lore points of the map.
So this is I would say this is the first mixed warfare map that has like hazards in them, because on all of our maps we have the water set to kill. So we wanted to implement that because, you know, it's a sewer, there's poo-poo water here.
And there's this monstrosity.
Oh yeah. I think
these
Confidence showed it to us, I believe, maybe.
Are giant side breast pistols.
They're very large.
That are going up and.
It really helps to give that engine look, though. It's great.
So the proximity voice chat was, I think, some idea I had a little while ago to generalize cakes, because the whole concept of the proximity voice chat, completely, I take no credit for it, is entirely Cake's idea. Cake had a game mode using an Omega plugin called Two Rooms and a Boom. It's based off of a real card game, and he spent like a couple weeks just like painfully working on that, trying to get it to work and setting up a little website where you can connect and voice chat through it. But the most unfortunate part about it was that he never really released it in a shape that was usable by anyone. So I thought it would be interesting if I just took the same general concept and I generalized it into a more accessible Omega plugin so anyone could use it. So Omega is Cake's brainchild. He's been working on it since before Alpha 5 by quite a stretch, I think. He started working on it around when the Brickadia launcher was created. And in essence, it is a server wrapper. It wraps just the main server binary, and it allows you to write pretty rundown plugins that can interact with a couple components of the game. Using some weird console trickery, you can fetch player locations and fetch minigame information and load bricks at runtime and stuff like that. It's pretty limited at the same time. Like, you're also prevented from kicking people, banning people, giving roles, anything special like that. We have to be behaviors for that, but
and that's because of the binary itself.
Right.
We don't have a lot of functionality with it. Omega does everything that we have access to.
Everything that you can do, if you were to open the Brickadia server, just the vanilla Brickadia server right now, everything you can type in to alter the functionality in and of the game is what Omega can do. There's nothing extra, has no extra accessibility. You know, it can't see anything else, which is really impressive because Cake has gotten it to a place where you can automate pretty much all of this and create some really interesting stuff. Obviously, we've gone as far as to create voice chat plugins like Cake did, and I've made a ray tracer myself, which I wouldn't exactly call practical by any sense, but it just kind of demonstrates that you can go from some really limited, stripped down functionality and extract some really amazing stuff out of it, even before we have behaviors or wires or anything. It's just completely community made, and it shows that this community already has a drive to do random stuff, cool stuff, when we don't even really have the tools for it yet.
Originally, we had a creative difference between X and Chew about how the sewer map should just overall look like. X had a much more smaller brick red theme to it, which it had a lot of really cool design and like texture to it, and it was really neat. And Chew's version was a lot similar to this one, where it was very large, industrial looking, and it just looked like a serious, almost like a whole facility.
This is the idea I had from my side. This is going to be a spawn right here. Then each team would have this area they could walk in through here. And I had this idea of a little ravine type cave thing in here, so I built this little interesting thing, and I had lights hanging off because again I want to emphasize lights with Alpha 5. And I'm just gonna have this little section up here to, I don't know, maybe peek out and shoot people down in here, and then we're gonna be some stairs coming down from the sewer. So I don't know, this is a little work in progress thing I was working on. I might eventually finish it and stick it in Mixed Warfare, who knows.
Please do.
I don't think anyone specifically talked about it, but this entire room being completely circular is a very interesting concept for like the center room. Not really easy to hide in here. It makes for a really interesting combat. Much more aggressive and fast than you'd expect from this map for how large it is. So Chewy came up with the general theme of the map. I kind of had the layout at first, and then as we had people come in here and build, some also major themes showed up. Like Confident really had a fascination with angles. We originally intended for there to be almost no like angles or smooth surfaces in this map, but as you see, if you turn around and look here, just this whole area, this is kind of the culmination of Confident joining our build, is just angles and smooth. It looks much more like a realistic sewer, but it ended up being a much larger project too because of it. Like I said, I played it. I've been in the community while I was here before A4. I played quite a bit at the start of A4, but I left for a while, and I came back during a rather dark period where I did not have like anyone to be with or hang out with. So I kind of, my main intent when I came back to Brickadia was just trying to find friends and hang out, along with, of course, having a good creative outlet to kind of just create and share content and create and builds. And Brickadia has definitely helped me out a lot out there, and I'm pretty happy to have come back to this when I did.
I used to play Roblox a lot, and I played since maybe like 2008, and that was when it was in its early days. And right now, playing Brickadia, it feels how it felt back in 2008 when I joined Roblox. It's a very simple game. You just jump in and you can start building right away, and I feel that really connects with me, and that's why I keep coming back.
I think for me, like I was mentioning earlier, Brickadia to me is definitely becoming a platform, and I found Brickadia through a pretty interesting way. So, like Chewy was mentioning with Roblox, and like how I mentioned earlier, I come from Roblox, and I had Blockland for a while. I'm not sure when I got it, probably maybe 2014, 2015-ish, so I'm not super old, and I have not spent a lot of time on Blockland, but I'm definitely I was definitely sad to see that community kind of die over time and everything like that. So I eventually what I ended up doing was I created a kind of a recreation of Blockland in Roblox, and that was about the same time I found Brickadia. Actually, I found a video on YouTube of Brickadia 0.3.5 from Kenko, I believe, posted on his YouTube channel, and I saw some of the features like road dragging and some of the UI elements like the rotating bricks in your inventory. I thought that was really interesting, so I tied those two into my game. And this was before, obviously, Brickadia was accessible to anyone. Anyone could just hop on and download it. So I integrated that into my Roblox game, and eventually the developers found it off of a Reddit post, and they thought I was kind of trying to steal from Brickadia. So that was a fun little time, and I ended up recovering, my reputation with them, I think, and stuck around in the community. And I had been waiting for Alpha 4 to drop, which was the first alpha that anyone could play. And ever since, I've just been clocking hours and just having a good time and making random stuff. And I'm really glad to be here and in OBC, and we've made all these cool games and stuff, and it's shaping up to be something really cool.